Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. What's going on, guys? Now, I promised you guys a little while back I was going to do a video that is basically going to be a culmination of all the things that I've experienced and learned doing sex crimes investigations that I can share with you, the audience, that can keep you safe when you decide to go out with your friends and have a good time. Now, before we go any further, I want to say this. In no way, shape, or form is this video supposed to be construed as victim blaming in any way. Everybody, male or female, should be able to go out with their friends, drink as much as they want to drink, and return home safely without being harmed, harangued, harassed, or victimized. The purpose of me making this video is because we can't control what other people's actions are. What we can do is control our own actions. And I firmly believe from my experience that there are just evil people in this world. There are people who don't care about your body autonomy. They don't care about your morals. They don't care about society's morals or social mores. They don't care about the rules, regulations, and laws of our society. Those same laws that make this country a beautiful country and this world a beautiful place to visit. They don't care. So since they don't care, we have to do the best that we can do to protect ourselves. So I've decided to make this list and we're going to go through it. And hopefully there might be some things in here that might help somebody out there who might find themselves going out and not be victimized. Okay. Number one, if you're going to go out and you're deciding you want to drink heavy, only go out with bona fide close friends. Why do I say that? See, a lot of times people will go out with acquaintances, people that they know, people that they're cool with, but they're not exactly best friends. They're not people that's going to go out their way to make sure that they're safe. They're not a person that if they're like, hey, I think you're doing something that might get you hurt or in trouble, maybe you should stop. They're not that type of person because they're not close to you who's actually going to sit there and argue with you, maybe get physical, hold you, restrain you to protect you. They're folks that's like, hey, I'm ready to go home now. I'm tired. I see you, let's leave. And if you're like, nah, I want to stay a little bit longer, but you're super drunk, they'll say, okay, have a good time. And then they'll go home. And now you're by yourself, you're drunk, you're vulnerable, you could be victimized. So if you want to go out, you want to have a good time, get a little inebriated, no problem. Go with whoever you want, as long as you still have your wits about you. But if you are the type that you want to go out, you want to drink heavy, to the point where you can barely walk, you won't know your own name, which you should not be drinking like that at all. You should be doing that with people you trust, with people you know have your back. Number two, all friends should agree to arrive together and leave together. And you should have a cutoff time that you designate as a time that everybody needs to go home unless everybody agrees collectively to extend that time together. And why do I say that? Because a lot of the cases that we investigate, they happen because friends separate. Because you came together, most often people come together. So that's not the crutch of number two. Most often people come together. The problem is, do you leave together? And that's when people get victimized, when they're isolated and when they're alone. And in most instances, the cases that come across my desk, nobody has forced isolated that victim. That victim was self-isolated by friends deciding they wanted to go home, and the victim decided, hey, I don't want to go home, I want to stay out here and party a little longer. Or friends just disappear, people lose contact, lose, wits of where each other is, and just go their own way. If you're going to come together, you got to leave together. And lastly, the biggest issue is when it's time to go home. That's another thing. It's 2:30 in the morning. People have already went to 2-3 different bars. People are partying like rock stars, but they just don't know when to cut it off. An hour more is not going to make the night even more fun. If everybody comes together, everybody decides we're going to leave at 2:30, we're going to leave at 3 a.m., well, then program it in your minds and your psyche that regardless of how inebriated you are, it's going to click in your brain. It's 3 a.m. It's time to go home. Number 3, if possible, have a friend that I call, and I'm going to say this is a little bit of an inappropriate term that I've coined myself, but you should have a friend that night is going to be what I call the professional cock blocker. And why do I say that? There's a lot of times where people will go out, they'll get really drunk, they meet a stranger guy, they're all over this guy. They may not be the type that normally would do that kind of stuff. You should have a friend who's willing to say, all right, take it easy, break it up, exchange phone numbers, pick this up at another time when you're more about your wits and you guys know what you're doing and you're not drunk. That friend that's going to be pulling you along, getting you from point A to point B, you can only really do that if you're sober. And I know that everybody wants to go out and have a good time, but we got to be mature enough where you can designate on this day that this is not your time to have fun. This is your time to protect the friends, where that person will go out, have some semblance of a good time, of course, but still have their wits about themselves to look out for their friends and make sure that their friends are safe. And I call that person the professional cock blocker. You could call him whatever you want, but it's a good idea to have a friend like that. And there's something that exists like that. It's called the designated driver. That already exists. But I say go a little bit further to protect your friends from having that unwanted sexual contact with a stranger that sometimes people get involved in and they don't know. And this stuff protects both sexes, guys, because we get a lot of cases where people will wake up and they'll say, oh, somebody was taking advantage of me on the dance floor. Somebody was kissing me and touching my body, and I want them arrested. And then we'll go and we'll pull the cameras and we'll realize that it actually was the victim who was the aggressor. It was the victim who was throwing their tongue down this guy's mouth. It was a victim who's grabbing on this guy's drunk, and this guy's believing, oh my gosh, she's doing all this stuff to me. She must be into me. And then they reciprocate. But the next morning, because you were so inebriated, you're viewing that experience from your own biased eyes, forgetting about the things that you did yourself. So this professional cock blocker friend is the one who's going to prevent all of that, because they're going to see that stuff happening. And if they know that you're not that type of person who's into that kind of lifestyle, they're going to be like, chill, break it up. You know, let's you guys continue this on another day. Number 4, reconsider hookup culture. And I really believe that more so than another in this generation that we have now, people are just randomly hooking up with strangers. I don't know why anybody would want to do it. Maybe it's a reason why everybody seems to be walking around lately with stuff growing on their lips and stuff like that. I don't mean to be too graphic. No disrespect to anybody who may be of that situation. There are millions of people running around with that stuff. But it's because people are just randomly hooking up with folks. People not taking the time to really get to know people. People, you know, what do you expect if you go out to the clubs and you get a couple of drinks and guy or girl, you're tonguing somebody down you've never met before in your entire life. You don't know who they are, where they've been, what they're carrying, and what they're working with. You have no idea. They just look cute at the moment because they got a ton of makeup on, or, you know, they got their eyebrows done as a guy and their hair slicked back. You know what I'm saying? They're metrosexual and it out there. They're looking nice with their Italian suit. Yeah. So I'm going to tongue this person down? No, reconsider it, because so many of our cases are people going out there with the purpose of hooking up with somebody, getting drunk, then having regrets the next day. And then sometimes they say, I was raped. And then we go and we do our investigation. And what do we find? We find, you know, the video of, once again, people kissing and making out and touching each other's privates and stuff like that. And listen, we don't know what happened in that apartment. Maybe you did say no. Maybe you said, no, I changed my mind, and the person forced themselves on you. But that's a very difficult case to bring forward to a jury or a grand jury, to before you even get to a regular jury, a grand jury, if there's video showing you pretty much doing the whole gamut of second and third base before you go into the unknown, which is the person's apartment. We got elevator video of you going up, making out with the person. It's hard to put that to a jury and say, well, ignore all that other evidence. Just believe that when they got into that room, whoever, male or female, said no, and the other person, male or female, didn't listen and took advantage of them. In those cases, I'd have to say there needs to be a lot of extra evidence, like physical evidence. We're talking about maybe some, bruising around the body, defensive wounds, or immediate reporting, going to the hospital immediately to do a rape kit. Contemporaneous witnesses, like immediately texting or calling friends saying something horrible happened to me. I thought this was a good guy, but he got a little rough with me and I told him stop, he wouldn't stop, and this is what happened. Like, that stuff will help build a case to say, okay, there is a dividing moment between all this consensual stuff that we may see on camera and from actual witnesses to what happened behind closed doors. But so often those contemporaneous pieces of evidence don't exist. And all we have is one person's word saying, I was taken advantage in the house, and then a bevy of evidence leading up to that front door of that person's apartment showing consensual sexual contact. So to avoid all of that, let's start getting to know each other before we have intercourse. Let's stop this hookup culture. But if you want to do that, I'm not judging you, but I'm just letting you know what the repercussions could possibly be. Number 5, take Uber together, take pictures of the Uber car and the license plate. So this one kind of ties in with one of the previous ones where you kind of go to the club together, leave together. Take Ubers as a group. And before you get into the car, even though Uber and Lyft sometimes tells you the car and the license plate, I have gotten into Ubers and Lyfts where the person is not using the car that they're supposed to be using. I've gotten into those, and maybe some of you have too. Supposedly on the app, it's telling me a black sedan and then a white Toyota Corolla rolls up, and it's like, now I'm a guy and I'm always strapped because I'm on the job, so I get in the car. If the dude wants to try and do something funky, you're gonna meet my little friend. You know what I'm saying? But if you're drunk and you're inebriated and you barely could see 5 feet in front of you, you don't even know your name, all that good stuff that people go through when they drink like that, that's very dangerous. So what we found in my experience and my colleagues, when you come and you take these Ubers together, and believe me, we do have cases where Uber and Lyft drivers are sexually abusing people. So you're not even really safe in an Uber and a Lyft. But when people travel as groups, there are multiple witnesses who can say, I remember that driver. So when you're the last person in that car, it's more likely that that driver, even if they may have the thought to possibly take advantage of you because you're so drunk, there's a possibility they're going to say, too many witnesses, let me just let this person off home and go about my business. Most of those guys are not like predatory serial rapists. That's not. What they are opportunists. 95% of these people who get arrested by me, who get investigated by me, who get investigated by my colleagues, etc., by everybody who's in this business, they're not people who will just go out there and take advantage of anyone. They are opportunists who really have bad judgment and did something horrible to somebody who's vulnerable. If that person was never vulnerable in front of them at the right place in the right time, they probably would have never committed the crime. But these folks were not thinking about what the consequences of their actions will be on another human being. They were being selfish. They were thinking about their own desires, selfish desires. And here's a person who appears to be out of it, and then they take advantage of the person, most of the time because they believe that the person won't remember it, but oftentimes the person does. So once again, if you're in that Uber or that Lyft as a group, that individual, that's driver, is less likely to want to take advantage of you because so many different witnesses have left that car and can attest to that person's face. And if something does happen to you, you have the license plate of that car and you have a picture of the car. So if that license plate and picture does not match what was on the Uber app, the police know where to go. The police know the actual car that you got in and the actual license plate. They know where to start. They know exactly where to find the owner of that vehicle, and that owner may or may not be the person who's driving, but that owner, when they find out why the cops are knocking on their door, that owner is going to be more inclined to say, I wasn't driving that day, but Jessica or Johnny Boy, whoever, they were driving that day. Go find them. Don't come for me. All right. Number 6, never accept drinks from a stranger. I don't care if you're the type of person who goes to a club or a bar with $0 in your wallet because you expect to be treated, you expect for some guy. And listen, guy, I keep saying they and them, but in all honesty, the majority of victims are females. The second runner-up by a very wide margin are males who are part of the LGBTQIA community. This rarely happens to straight men. And straight men are most often the perpetrators against females. And of course, other males from the LGBTQ community are perpetrators against LGBTQ community members. All right. So I'm trying to be politically correct by saying they and pretending like it's both genders, but in all actuality, it's most often females who are victims, and it's most often men who are perpetrators against females. So that being said, don't accept drinks from a stranger. Even though it's very rare, it does happen where people are drugged, especially if you're the type to go out to a bar or club by yourself. That happens as well. If you're a female and you went out to a bar by yourself, understand that everybody in that bar, they know. Every guy in that bar is there because they're trying to find a female. They're either trying to find one for a hookup or they're trying to find one for a relationship. And very, very, very small percentage, but they're there, are looking for somebody to take advantage of. Either way, the guys with good intentions and the guys with bad intentions, they're all paying attention to the women in that bar because those are the people that they want. Those are their prey. So understand that if you're there by yourself and there's nobody to watch you drink, there's nobody to drink with you, where now it's two people getting sick at the same time, which would raise a red flag for the bartender or for other folks who are in the bar, that predator is going to target you. Even if you're not their style, even if they're not attracted to you, their type, they're going to target you because you're the only one who's vulnerable right now in that bar or club because you're there by yourself. And it's going to start off as, hey, the bartender giving you a drink. Hey, this came from that guy over there. You drink that drink. Now you're feeling nice. Then he comes over with a drink. It's exceedingly rare that a bartender will ever drug you. So that one is almost close to zero. It can happen, and there's going to be somebody who hits me up and say, it happened to me. Everything is possible in this world. But it's almost down to zero of a bartender drugging you. Bartenders just don't get down like that. They're trying to make their money. They're busy serving 1,000 people. They can't readily leave from behind the bar. So if they do drug you, what time will they have to take advantage of you? Because they're working till 4 a.m. Now, I've heard of one instance where a bartender was working in cahoots with a dude who was his friend to put the drug inside of it for his friend, and then his friend took the female to victimize her. That happened one time that I've heard about that. I didn't work that myself. I heard about it with a colleague. But you have to look out for the stranger guy who's not behind the bar, who's going to drug you. So once again, he might send you that free drink through the bartender, and the bartender will give you that drink and you'll drink it. And then he's going to come over with his own drink and with a drink for you. Well, guess what? That drink is probably drugged. Don't accept drinks from strangers. If a guy comes over to you and you think he's cute and you'd love to get to know him better, and he has a drink, say, hey, listen, no disrespect. I'd love to sit down and talk to you, but I only drink drinks that I've personally gotten or I've seen served to me. All right. And that's it. And then you know what? A good way of him showing you that he could be trusted, he puts both of those drinks on the table and he drinks both of those drinks. And now you know, after 15, 20 minutes, if he's not knocked out, that he didn't try and drug you. But that doesn't mean you take the third drink from him because he proved to you that the first two wasn't drugged. Don't take drinks from strangers. Full stop. End of story. If a guy wants to buy you a drink, he should place an order with the bartender, and then you can get that drink from the bartender or from a waiter. Do not take drinks from a man you do not know inside of a club or a bar. Let's keep going. Number 7, never go to the bathroom by yourself. If you're too intoxicated to fight for yourself and scream bloody murder, and sometimes in some bars and clubs, the music is so loud, screaming bloody murder is not going to help you. Do not go to the bathroom by yourself. You should always go to the bathroom with a friend. There's been countless cases where drunk females have gone to the female and men's bathroom because sometimes the line on the female bathroom is too long. And some places are now sporting gender-free bathrooms where men and women go to the same bathroom. You should have a friend that can watch your stall and watch your back to make sure nobody's taking advantage of you while you're in the bathroom. People do freaky stuff in these venues. If you're in a stall getting taken advantage of, nobody's going to think that you're getting raped unless you're screaming, he's raping me in here, help me, he's raping me. And people care to actually do something about it, because how many times these things happen and nobody does anything? We had a Philadelphia situation where a man was raping a woman, a drunk woman who came from the club on a train, a vagrant guy, a unhoused individual was raping a drunk woman on a train in Philly, and people got on the train and off the train watching him have sex with her, and nobody did anything until the final stop of the train. She got raped for the whole run of the train. And finally, at the end, somebody was like, yo, what are you doing, man? Get off of her. And then when he kind of pulled the guy off, he noticed that she was unconscious, and then he worked to restrain the dude, and other people came and helped. Finally, after the dude had destroyed this woman's life and put her through this ordeal, at the end of the train stop is when somebody finally intervened. Nobody intervened in between that. Dozens of stops on that train. So there's no guarantee somebody will help you. So make sure you go into the bathrooms with your friends. Make sure you go in with your friends and somebody's watching your back. Number 8, don't ever drink to the point where you're going to black out and you don't know who you are. If you're going to the club or to the bar and your purpose is to drink so much that you don't know your own name, you don't know your address, you don't know where you are, you have a problem. You need professional help. That is not the purpose of drinking alcohol. The purpose of drinking alcohol should be for you to feel nice, for you to drop your inhibitions, for you to joke and laugh with your friends, not remember what happened to you the next day, not losing your memory and blacking out, not waking up in a stranger's bed and not remembering whether you gave that person consent to have intercourse with you. And this helps both sides, because we do these cases where, once again, people wake up in strange beds and they're saying, rape, rape, rape. And then when you do your investigation, you see anything other than that. And now 2 lives are destroyed. You have somebody who now was accused of a horrible crime who may not be guilty of that crime. And we have somebody who barely remembers the events of that night, who is now carrying the burden of being a victim, feeling as though they were taken advantage of against their will, when in actuality, the video evidence and the witness evidence probably shows that they gave consent. So one person's on the brink of doing 20 years in prison, and the other person is living with trauma for the rest of their life because they don't remember what happened to them. Don't drink that much. If you're drinking where you're blacking out, go get help. Go get help. That is not healthy. It's not healthy for you physically, and it's certainly not healthy for you mentally, and it's not healthy for the people around you and the people that may be accused by you of something horrendous. And it's not healthy because somebody may actually seek you out to take advantage of you because you're in that state. So it's probably best to never drink to that level. Number 9, share your location with family and friends. You're a grown woman. You don't want people to keep tabs on you. If your family lives in Nebraska, your mom, your father live in Nebraska, and you're in a party city like New York, Chicago, Miami, and you're going out to have fun, your dad, your mom, they don't know where you're going. They don't really care where you're going. You're a grown woman. It's nothing to say, you know what, mom, dad, when I go out, I like to share my location just in case something happens to me. I'm sharing my location with you just so you can know where I'm at if something happens to me. If nothing happens to you, well, and this is the time I plan on being in. So if I don't check in with you by this time, then you know to call the authorities and make sure you let them know my location. If something happens with you, now we have people who can actually be able to tell us this is the places you've been. You don't even have to use family. I use family because I'm big on family, and I'd love and I'd hope that my girls will trust me, and even my son will trust me enough that they wouldn't mind doing that with me and say, hey, dad, I'm going to party. I'm going to party like a rock star. It is what it is. But I want to share my location just in case something happens, dad. That'd be great. I hope I have that relationship with my kids when they get older. But you could just do it with your best friends. You could do it with your roommate. You could do it with the people that, who are closest to you. You could do it with your friends that you're actually going out with. Share your location with these folks temporarily. Turn off location share after the club is done and you're in your regular life. Nobody needs to follow you and know what you're doing. But when you're going out to the bars, you're going out with the clubs, everybody should, we have, I think it's My Life app. There are other apps with the Android store and the Apple store. I'm not really big on, I don't know what these things are. Download these apps and share your location. It may save your life. Location will save your life. So find a trusted person. You're only doing it for the night that you're out. If you party like an animal every week, once a week, you'll be sharing your location. If you're like the rest of us human beings that party once in a while, whatever that interval may be, it's a once in a blue moon thing that you'll share that with your friends and family, and you'll be amazed on how that will help you if you're ever in a bind. Not even just if something bad is happening to you. If you get stranded on the side of the road, let's say you get into an Uber or a taxi and you're rude to them. I'm going to give the taxi and the Uber driver deference. You're rude to them and they say, all right, get out my cab. And now you're stranded in the middle of nowhere and you're drunk, you don't know where you are and all that good stuff. That location could mean that a friend or a family member could come and pick you up and give you some help when you're in need. And lastly, we got number 10. Number 10, don't be ashamed to seek help. Now, this is going to be a little controversial. And the reason why it's going to be controversial is because there are two dueling things that are happening when I say don't be ashamed to seek help. The two dueling things are the need for law enforcement to collect evidence to help solve your case, and the need for a victim to properly process what happened to them and to mind their own mental health. And I will dare say your mental health is the most important. But I'm going to be real, and I'm going to tell you the other side of the equation. A lot of times, people will be victimized. They'll be so emotionally traumatized that they will take time to report what happened to them. And I get it. I understand that once again, your mental health is the most important thing. But nobody stresses to a victim or to society in general so that a victim can know about this before they become a victim and then hopefully a survivor. Every minute that you take to report this to police, evidence disappears. Evidence disappears. And without evidence, cases are hard to prove to a jury. And without enough evidence, a district attorney, county attorney may decide not to bring charges against somebody who is guilty as sin of violating you. And they'll get away with it simply because we don't have evidence. So what should you do if you feel like you've been a victim of sexual abuse? Immediately go to the hospital. If you don't want to report it to police, it is your right not to have police report to the hospital, but go to the hospital, tell the emergency room that you believe you've been a victim of sexual abuse. They will do a rape kit on you or a sexual assault evidence kit on you. You can then tell them, do not notify local police. I will notify them when I am ready. And then the hospital will save that kit until you are ready for law enforcement to collect the kit to have it tested in a state lab. And then move forward with a case. So at the very least, secure the SOECK kit, the sex assault evidence kit. At the very least, make sure that you immediately, upon leaving the perpetrator, whether they drop you off, whether you're allowed to leave their house, they throw you on the side of the road, whatever it is, and I'm not trying to be funny, I'm literally picking things out of my brain that I've seen before and heard before. This is not a joking matter. However you leave that perpetrator, and thank God you're able to leave that perpetrator, immediately go to the hospital. Don't go to your house. Don't go to your friend's house. Don't go to your parents' house. Don't go to your boyfriend's house. Go to the hospital and have a kit done on you. They will collect evidence from every orifice of your body, and they'll save that evidence, and we will have access to that evidence. When you're ready, come forward to the police, and the police will take it from there. You should also be mindful that many businesses do not keep video surveillance beyond 1 week. They do not keep video surveillance beyond 1 week. It is a miracle when we find places that have 30 days of footage, 2 weeks of footage, 15 days of footage. I've been to a store where they only had video for 24 hours. I had a conversation with the manager. I said, listen, what you're doing is negligent. Because if something happens to one of your employees or something, like, you better go and unplug that video surveillance system so that that stuff can be retained, because 24 hours is ridiculous, especially in this day and age when memory is so cheap. So once again, if it takes you a week to get your mental health in order, to have the strength to come forward, understand that we may lose key evidence that can help solve your case. We may go to the residence that you were taken to, and the superintendent might tell us, hey, we only have video for a week, and it's now 2 weeks. We might go to the bar, we might go to the club, we might go to these places, and they might say, we don't have video. And we have lost evidence, ladies and gentlemen. We've lost evidence that we could have used to bring you justice. But this is not about blaming victims and saying, oh, why, don't take too long. I'm just telling you the other side. Because at the end of the day, if you're not mentally prepared for the process, it's just going to hurt you more anyway. The actual path of seeking justice might end up being more painful or just as painful as the actual attack. So I totally get it, and I understand that people need to get themselves mentally ready to come forward. I get it, but I want you to also understand what the consequences are of if we take too long to come forward. And that concludes my list of the 10 things you can do to help you stay safe. You go out there to the clubs, with your friends and your family, or the bars, etc. I hope you guys have learned something, and I hope that I was sensitive and respectful in my delivery and in the information that I provided. I'll see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace.